What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Movie Emporium's movie review of Tenet, the newest film from director Christopher Nolan. Before we begin, if you like my channel, of course, hit that subscribe button to join Movie Emporium. Hit that notification bell at the top to find out what's coming next. Hey, if you like this video, cool, hit that like button, as well as commenting below on any video that you watch, including this one. So, here's what I'm going to do. Since this movie has come out in most countries, it doesn't come out till Friday in the States, I'm going to do my non-spoiler review. First, I'm going to talk about this film a little bit, and then as soon as I'm done with my non-spoiler review, I'm going to do my spoiler review, which I will put the time code down the credit thing or whatever, the synopsis of this actual video, and I'll tell you what my feeling on what this movie is really about. I really will. So let's go ahead and get started. So in Christopher Nolan's 11th film, we have John David Washington, who plays the protagonist. He's never given an actual name. He's basically tasked with going after this character played by Kenneth, who's a Russian terrorist. He has a wife who's played by Elizabeth Debicki, and he is basically tasked to kind of infiltrate this group to try to take down, because there's a possibility of nuclear war, a possibility of the Armageddon, and he has to stop him at all costs. And that's when we have the Robert Pattinson Neil character come into the mix, who is actually trying to help the John David Washington protagonist character from stopping this Russian terrorist. Now, with that said, where this movie gets into serious spoiler territory without spoiling it, there is some interesting time stuff involved. There's some interesting ideas involved that only Christopher Nolan himself could ever come up with in a movie. And with that said, when you've seen the trailers, you know that things don't play in fast forward motion or forward motion. Sometimes things play in reverse. And this movie is basically a time inversion, time disparity type of movie that is going left and right and going backwards, forwards. It's a very insane movie. And I completely understand why people don't like this movie, because it takes 90 minutes of this movie to kind of get an idea what is even happening to these characters, the way the action takes place, the way these characters move forward. It's so strange and so inventive and so kind of confusing that you just have no idea what's going on. You're just like, why is this happening? Why is that happening? How is that happening? What is even going on? And it makes it to be almost like Christopher Nolan's most inaccessible film that has a huge budget. This is like a $300 million movie. So to have this kind of inaccessibility will piss off a lot of people. Excuse my language, will make a lot of people mad. And you've seen the reviews out there where people actually despise this movie. And like I said, I totally get that, because the stuff that is coming out of John David Washington's mouth, the stuff that is coming out of Robert Pattinson's mouth, the stuff that's coming out of Kenneth Branagh's mouth, can be really confusing. There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of deep and mythological and methodical talking in this movie. There's a lot of edits and cuts that don't make a lot of sense. There's just a lot going on in this movie, and for 2 hours and 40 minutes, if you can't keep up with what's going on, you're not going to be entertained by this movie. Now, with that said, watching this movie in 70mm projected is an incredible experience. It was something I was looking forward to. I was willing to wait till a later showing just to see this in the theater, and it's mind-bogglingly good about how good Christopher Nolan is at directing, at showing us stuff on the screen. Because when he does the wide IMAX shots, it's breathtaking to watch. But you see these people in the audience as they're leaving. There's some people that are really excited by this, and then there's some people that just don't understand what the hell happened. And that can be a huge problem. This movie is going to be like Interstellar, where it's going to be very divisive when it comes out. But I think as the more people see it and the more times they see it, I think they can start kind of getting the pieces and ideas about what is truly going on in this film, to kind of get an idea of what Christopher Nolan is doing. It's inventive. It really is. And in this movie, once it gets to that 90-minute mark, I was completely on board with this movie. I love this movie to death. It is not his best film. I think it gets more complicated than it needs to be. Like I said, I was really confused for the first 90 minutes of this movie. But my God, when the reveal happens and when the exposition truly kind of takes hold, this movie does what no other movie can do. And Christopher Nolan does what no director can do, which is subvert our expectations and completely just kind of mind F us in the process. This movie does some of the most amazing action set pieces I've ever seen in my entire life. The logistics of what he is doing in this movie is incredible. I don't know how I don't know how his brain fathoms doing this kind of stuff that he does in this movie. Like I said, this movie's 2 hours and 38 minutes or whatever. And for like the last hour of this movie, there are set pieces in this that rival Interstellar, that rival Inception, that rival The Dark Knight. The last sequence, which takes up like 40 minutes of the movie, is you have to like break your brain into like two pieces to understand what is even happening. And it's just I can't fathom how much I really enjoyed this movie. It's like trying to decipher a puzzle that is completely opening up like an onion. And when it does open up, it's like something you've never seen before. So I'm gonna leave it at that. Tenet is, to me personally, an incredible piece of work when it does work. Like I said, when it doesn't work, it is really confusing. It is really pretentious and doesn't really make a lot of sense when when you see the edits. Like I said, there are sequences in here where it's just like, what are you doing, Christopher Nolan? Come on, you got to give us something. And then when he does give us something, it's unlike anything you've ever seen. So with that said, this movie's gonna be divisive. It's gonna put off a lot of people, and it's gonna be a movie that you either really love or really hate. There's no in between. There really isn't. So that's it. That's my non-spoiler review of Tenet. Thank you so much for watching. Remember, at the end of this video, I'm going to talk a little bit about what I thought about the movie in a spoiler-filled fashion. But anyways, comment below what you thought of the movie. If you don't want to, like I said, don't want to watch a spoiler review, just tell me what you thought of the movie, all that good stuff. Also, yeah, hit the subscribe button to join Movie Emporium. Hit that notification bell at the top to find out what's coming next. And if you like this video, cool, hit that like button. As well as if you dislike it, it is what it is. But otherwise, we will see you guys on the next video. Peace out. So I hope you enjoyed my non-spoiler review. This is going to go into some spoiler territory, what I thought of the movie, what I thought of the ideas of the movie. So be aware that if you're watching this, you've either watched the movie or you just don't care about going to see the movie and you just want to know what happened. Like I said, if you enjoyed this video or you enjoyed the other video, hit that subscribe button to join Movie Emporium. Hit that notification bell at the top to find out what's coming next. If you like this video, cool, hit that like button, as well as commenting below on any video to watch, including this one. So to decipher Tenet is like deciphering a riddle box. It's like deciphering an onion. It's the story of what one man will do to accomplish his goal if he had the ability to use time to go forward, use time to go backwards, and how would he use that machine, because it's a machine in the movie based off radiation and stuff like that, to fix the problem. And this movie is bonkers. It really is. For, like I said in my non-spoiler review, for the first 90 minutes of this movie, you really don't have any idea what's going on. You're following these characters, especially John David Washington's character. You're seeing him fight, people in reverse. You're seeing him learn about time inversion. You're seeing him like take bullets away from, the gun range and stuff like that. You're seeing him when they're trying to steal some piece of this machine that's going to cause Armageddon. And then he fights someone, but the person that he's fighting is in reverse. So you're seeing things go in reverse, and you're seeing things like spinning around in different areas. When Robert Pattinson comes in here, was really confused about why he just kind of comes in and kind of like disappears for portions of the movie. And then, we meet the Elizabeth Debicki character, we meet the Kenneth Branagh character, and we start to see this weird kind of time inversion stuff where Kenneth Branagh is doing stuff that goes in reverse. When John David Washington's fighting against Kenneth Branagh in the freeway, Kenneth Branagh is going backwards and he's talking in backwards language, and he sees like John David Washington and Robert Pattinson see a car that's starting to flip over backwards, and the vehicle Kenneth Branagh is in backwards and stuff like that. And that happens a lot in this movie, especially happens at the beginning of the movie where it is in the opera house, and you see a little bit of the time inversion and stuff like that, and we learn about, there's a secret group of people that are called Tenet, and they're basically tasked with, the time inversion material. But what this movie is basically doing is he's giving you a lot of the ending of this movie, Christopher Nolan is, and putting it through like interstitial parts of this movie. So you're seeing like characters like Priya, who is basically the first person that John David Washington as a protagonist character goes, which is actually, let's go back real quick. The protagonist is kind of a clever thing because throughout this movie, John David Washington goes, "I'm the protagonist," which makes a lot of sense because when you start getting to the gist of what this movie is trying to wrap your head around, it's actually quite clever. But Priya is this person that is responsible for John David Washington's character getting to, of course, the Russian character, which is played by Kenneth Branagh, in a chewing steel type of role where he's like over the top and crazy and just what Kenneth Branagh is known for doing. And this is where we meet the Elizabeth Debicki character, and there's something there that you're not getting until you see it maybe on the second viewing, where you feel like the Elizabeth Debicki character knows John David Washington's character. How that happens, you don't really find out until like 90 minutes into the movie. But you start seeing, like I said, you start seeing things play out in situations. They blow up a big plane, because Christopher Nolan he can blow up a plane. And like I said, you get into the freeway chase stuff, and you start seeing things go backwards and forwards and so on and so forth. And that's when we get to the 90-minute mark, or it is somewhere around that range. And we have what is the revelation of what this movie is even about. Or not what it's about, but what is actually going on. And this is where I think the movie kind of gelled for me when it became something quite unique, is we see John David Washington's character get kidnapped or, taken hostage by one of Kenneth Branagh's goons. We see Elizabeth Debicki is also taken hostage, and they're taken into this room. And John David Washington is placed on a chair, and all of a sudden we see Kenneth Branagh and Elizabeth Debicki's character going backwards. And they place it in the seat, and there's a really cool moment during the fight sequence at the airport, or the whatever it is, where you see like the bullets and stuff like that start like going back into the gun as the fight's starting to happen, the reverse fight. And you realize like the whole idea of like being shot backwards is actually worse than being shot forwards, because the whole inclination of everything that's going on. So this whole thing is playing out. Basically, Kenneth Branagh is talking backwards with his gun pointed at Elizabeth Debicki's character. You see the bullet hole in the actual, like, the thing is starting to reverse itself to the point where, Kenneth Branagh's character's bullet is going to go right back through Elizabeth Debicki's character. And that's when, John David Washington's character gives the information to where the other piece of this this nuclear device is at. And then Kenneth Branagh like disappears out the room on the other side of this window. Well, if you're paying attention to the reverse fight sequence at the very very beginning of this movie, you see Robert Pattinson on one side of the window, you see John Davis Washington on the other side of the window, and you see this like reverse thing, like if you were going to a radioactive tunnel or whatever, like in a video game or something like that. And all of a sudden, like, things start going backwards to this character that John David Washington is fighting. And then we go back to the portion where I was just talking about, and I'm sorry if I'm confusing, I'm trying to make this as simple as possible. When you go through this little tunnel, this like rotating door situation, you actually are giving yourself the ability, and it's not truly 100% explained, but it has to do with radioactive material and stuff like that through World War II and the Manhattan Project. You go through this little rotating thing, and you are all of a sudden going backwards in time. So you are seeing basically, let's say you were going backwards, you are seeing everything that you had just seen going in reverse, so you can actually see yourself going into the machine, and coming out or not even coming out, but you see your character basically, going in the machine and disappearing. So you're basically, throughout the last, hour of this movie, you're dealing with a situation of watching characters go forward in time, watching characters go backwards in time, and you're seeing both sides of the story. So that freeway chase that you've seen, where you see the car going backwards as it's flipping, re-putting itself back together, you actually see the reverse situation of that, where you see John David Washington's character basically going outside into the world as it's going backwards. And because of it's going backwards, everything is just weird and out of place, and he has to wear a mask to be able to breathe and stuff like that. And the way he has to handle everything, because it is going backwards, it gets really kind of, disorienting. And he's actually in that car that is chasing after the Kenneth Branagh character that flips over and, basically explodes. But because everything is going backwards, this is so insane. Everything's going backwards. It actually causes the fire to actually kind of extinguish and turn into a cold burn or something like that on John David Washington's hand. So we actually get to see basically the whole movie running through at the beginning of this movie till we get to the nexus point, which is when you can get into the reverse situation. So think about it like this. So you have this system in front of you, and you're able to go into the system, come out, and actually see everything coming in reverse on the other side of what you just witnessed or what you just did. And then you're able to see, go backwards in time and stuff like that. It's a really, like I said, I don't know how Christopher Nolan does this kind of stuff. I don't know what his logic and thinking, but it is truly inventive. It really is. But we start to do the whole backwards situation because what is needing to happen is they need to, because Elizabeth Debicki's character has been shot, they need to take her back. They actually go back to a point because they can't go through the tunnel system again, so they have to go far back into the past to almost the beginning point where we had the reverse fight sequence and go through that. So basically what is ending up happening is we're seeing everything in reverse, and we're actually seeing the fact that John David Washington's character literally fought himself, and Robert Pattinson's character had witnessed John David Washington, so he knew that the mission was so far successful. So like I said, you're seeing everything go back and reverse in a much quicker fashion because they have to speed up the movie because they've done so much in the first 90 minutes. And so we get into probably the most interesting and probably the most thought-provoking thing that Christopher Nolan has ever done, and probably the most ambitious, and like his mindset, I don't know how he does it. So at the end of this movie, we have two teams. We have the red team, which is going forwards in time. They have 10 minutes. We have the blue team, which is going backwards in time. So they have to stop this nuclear weapon or this Armageddon weapon, whatever you want to call it, from basically destroying the entire world population. And so what it's doing is you're actually seeing both sides of the mission being played in different directions. So if you're following the blue team, you're seeing the red team go in reverse. And if you're seeing the red team go forward, you're seeing the blue team go in reverse. So you're literally in this 10-minute period seeing a completely unique take on a war battle where one team is going forward, one team is going backwards, but each team looks like they're going forwards and backwards. It's such a mind F of a story arc and story description to try to even explain it in a fully comprehensive way, that to boil it down is like something I've never seen before. It's a movie so unique in its storytelling aspects that it almost makes Interstellar and Inception be truly kind of like child's play. It really does. But like I said, we get to near the end of this movie. John David Washington and this character named Ives, who's played by Aaron Taylor Johnson, go into this underground, and the rocks behind them explode, and they see one of the main henchmen who is lowering the thing into the well or whatever. We see Kenneth Branagh basically on the boat, and I'll tell you about that in a second. And we see a person dead on the ground. So what is happening now is that person dead on the ground because they're going backwards. We see him come back to life. We see him able to open the door. And we see him like run backwards out the hallway, and John David Washington's able to save, and Robert Pattinson's, he goes forward in time, so he's able to save him and stuff like that. Well, what we learn at the end of this movie, after everything's said and done, Kenneth Branagh's character is dead because Elizabeth Debicki from the future has killed him in the past, stuff like that. We find out that Robert Pattinson's character is the one who ends up dead, so he's going to have to go backwards in time or something like that, and is going to die by the main henchman guy, and that's going to be the end of Robert Pattinson's character. What makes this story so unique is at the very beginning of this movie, we had a character with this really interesting backpack that is what Robert Pattinson's character is wearing. So he was the one that saved the John David Washington character. What makes it so unique is Robert Pattinson's character actually knows John David Washington's character from the future. So at some point, John David Washington's the protagonist, has met up with Neil, has discovered him in some form, and something happens to allow Robert Pattinson's character to go backwards in time to basically help out the John David Washington character. So it becomes a thing of kind of mind effing the fact that they knew each other in a different life form. So everything, when it starts to kind of collide on one another, we realize that John David Washington and Robert Pattinson actually are good friends in a future setting, and it's going to lead into some really interesting, if they don't really get into it after that because Robert Pattinson goes off and ends up being killed. But it's like when you're watching that and you're starting to realize what is actually happening, it's insane. It really is. Like I said, me trying to explain it is insane as it is. But I hope I gave some kind of explanation on what this movie is trying to do is trying to basically show you both sides of going backwards and going forwards, and the kind of ramifications and implications of what that will do, how that will mind f the audience, and how it will portray a very inventive storytelling element. Because at the end of this movie, we have John David Washington, who's basically revealed to be the character that has set up everything that we see from the very beginning of this movie. From the moment we see John David Washington's character at the beginning to the very end, we realize John David Washington has basically been the guy, the money man, the guy behind the scenes that has been controlling everything. And it's really kind of interesting and creative, and it's a really kind of unique film that does so much with its interesting ideas and perspectives, that it makes it one of Christopher Nolan's most interesting but most like infuriating slash just complex movies. That just, it doesn't hold your hand, it doesn't allow you a breathing room, it's going to throw it in your face, you're going to have to follow it, and if you can't follow it, this is not the movie for you. It really isn't. So that is my interpretation of this movie, trying to decipher Tenet in a nutshell. I hope I did at least a decent job. I know there's gonna be 1,000 questions in the comments. I will do my best to answer what I think of this movie, but overall, the movie's entertaining. It really is. The set pieces, the freeway chase, and the airport sequence, and that battle sequence at the end are some of Nolan's best. They really are. And they're some of the most inventive and some of the most unique. So there you go. There's my long-winded approach to this review, Deciphering Tenet. So anyways, let me know what you think in the comments below. Did that make any sense to you? If it didn't, I apologize. I did my best. But anyways, if you like my channel, hit that subscribe button to join Movie Emporium. Hit that notification bell at the top to find out what's coming next. If you like this video, cool, hit that like button. And yeah, we'll see you on the next review. Peace out.